Hi everyone, welcome to another webinar of our webinar series, Driving Sustainable Future, Opportunities from Carbon Market Platforms. My name is Valentina Mondragon, the Strategy Director at EcoRegistry, and I am delighted to welcome you to this insightful discussion on the dynamic world of carbon markets, carbon credit commercialization, and pricing. In recent years, our global community has witnessed a significant shift in our approach to environmental responsibility, underscored by the urgency to address climate change. Carbon markets have emerged as a powerful mechanism to drive environmental sustainability, promote innovation, and incentivize businesses to reduce their carbon footprint. Our panel today includes leaders from pioneering organizations such as S&P and CO2 Zero, who have been at the forefront of this transformative journey. Carbon price reporting has become the bedrock of these markets, offering transparency, accountability, and credibility in the measurement and valuation of carbon emissions. Tools like these enable companies to understand the real cost of their environmental impact and provide a financial incentive to reporting in setting to reduce emissions. We will look into the significance of carbon price reporting in setting the stage for carbon credit trading. Carbon offsets represent real reductions in greenhouse gas emissions and are instrumental in facilitating the transitions towards a low-carbon economy. Our panelists will share the insights on the growing demand for carbon credits, the importance of assuring these credits are both credible and impactful, and how businesses can harness them to achieve their sustainability goals. We invite you to engage with us in a thoughtful and constructive dialogue as we collectively work towards a more sustainable and resilient future for our planet. We invite you, our guests here, and whoever is viewing this event, to ask your questions through the chat to our panelists. So first, I want to welcome Silvia. I want to introduce her, Silvia Fazzulli. She is the managing editor of Voluntary Carbon Markets at S&P Global. Before her current role, Silvia gained extensive experience covering the gas industry at both S&P Global and Interfax Energy. With her deep expertise in the energy sector and a keen eye for market trends, Silvia is a valuable resource for insights into the ever-evolving world of carbon markets and the broader energy landscape. Silvia, welcome, and please tell us more about S&P Global, why you are invited here, and about the tool for the carbon pricing instruments that you have. And then I'm going to introduce Jose, who is going to present about the CO2 Zero later. So Silvia, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Valentina. Pleasure to be here and nice to meet you all virtually. I am going to present my slides. It will make my presentation easier. Okay, it's not seeing the slides. Okay, I'm sharing the screen. This. Can you all see the slides? Could you give me a note? Valentina, if you could please confirm verbally.
Screen, but we are seeing a different tab, not some slides.
Sorry about this. Are you seeing this one? Yeah. Okay, how can I select? Because when I do the sharing, let me stop sharing. It doesn't allow me to select my slides, even if I have them open. Okay, I'll try one more time. Apologies about this. We tried this and it was all working good. Okay, so I share the screen. Okay, let's try again. So it gives me options that do not include. Okay, let's do this one. Entire screen.
I think you can share. You can click on share and share your screen, your entire screen.
Yeah, and then it gives me options of the documents that I have open, including this one, but not the slides. Okay, I think I found it. Like if I use the wind option, can you see now my slides? They should say voluntary carbon market.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can see them.
Okay, great. Thank you. Apologies about that. Okay, so I'm going to talk about, as Valentina said, voluntary carbon market and the role that S&P Global, or Platts as its best known, plays in this market. I have been covering the market as a reporter first and now as a managing editor for about 3 years. So I've seen the evolution of the market over the next 3 years and all the changes that have been happening. But first, so what does Platts or S&P Global do in this space? We are a provider of benchmarks. Benchmarks are price references that are used worldwide by different actors to understand where a specific commodity is trading. We assess the price of different commodities, from Brent, for which we have a global benchmark, to gas, agricultural products, and many others. And as I said, we entered into the voluntary carbon market space in January 2021 with the first price assessment launched. We have many more today. And what we aim to do is, again, to offer a reference that can be used by different players out there. You can see here are representations of some of the players we aim to offer a benchmark to. So first of all, active market participants, so buyers, sellers, like project developers, but also intermediaries like traders and brokers that can use these pricing both as numbers that are written in contracts, but also as a reference when the negotiations are held. We have risk managers within corporates that use these price assessments to carry out market evaluation of the products that they hold. Analysts, of course, they use these prices to create forecasts and identify trends in the supply and the demand side of things. Governments can be users of our benchmarks. And then, of course, exchanges and clearing houses or any other financial institutions that need to understand, trends in the market and how things are evolving. So what makes a good price assessment? What are we aiming to offer with these price assessments? We need to have a number that is consistently reflecting the value that a commodity has in the market. So we need to be able to be close to the value that the commodity has at any point in time. Our price assessments are daily, so every day we want to assess the price at which carbon credits are trading in the market or are being valued at. You need to have a methodology for doing the assessment that is robust and transparent. It has to be accessible to everyone that aims to use this price assessment, so that they can double check whether my team in this case, so the reporters, are applying the rules properly and coming up with a good price assessment every day. So transparency is a key element. Another important element is the fact that we need to be open to market scrutiny. We have processes in place that allow us to collect feedback from market participants. So everyone that is looking at the assessment that we publish every day can reach out and question our assessment based on information that I have observed in the market or that we have published. We need to ensure that our price assessments are based on broad industry participation. I will go a little bit more into the details about this when I explain how we collect the information that inform our price assessment. But it's important that we aim to collect information from a broad audience. Because, of course, we want to be reflective of the market. And so the more sources of information we have, the better it is. And this explains the next point as well. So we need this price assessment to be powered by granular information and verifiable information. Verifiable means that it's possible to understand where the information is coming from and to double check it with other market information as well. We are an audited company. It means that any regulator regulator, including, for example, the European Union, can step in and check whether we have applied the methodology consistently, if we have verified our sources of information, for example, if we have complied with all the rules that we need to have when we created these price assessments. And of course, an important core part of price assessment, it's impartiality or independency. So we need to ensure that when we assess the price of a credit, we are not favoring anyone in the industry. We assess the price of credits like no matter what is happening in the market, who the information is coming from, and who is buying our products, to the point that we have internal compliance rules. We call them Chinese doors. We use this popular term to say that we have a separation internally between the pricing team or the editorial team, which is where I sit and my team sit, and the commercial side of things. So price reporters like myself are not allowed to know who is subscribing to our prices, to our reports, so that we cannot be influenced by that information when we do our price assessment. All right, so this is an overview of what Platts does across many commodities. Now we can step into the voluntary carbon market and see which are the specific challenges that we had to face when assessing the price of carbon credits. What you can see here is a slide that show a typical way of categorizing carbon credits in the market. You know better than me that one of the peculiarities of the voluntary carbon market is the heterogeneity of the supply. So all credits are different from each other. They come from different type of projects with different cost of development. And so finding a price for these credits, it's a real challenge. So what we had to do was to categorize the market in a very similar way to what you see here, divide the market in reduction and avoidance on the one hand, and then removal credits on the other hand. And then we can divide further in tech-based credits and nature-based credits. Nonetheless, we know that within these categories, you have here some examples of credits that fall within each category. There can still be quite a huge price difference. For example, in the, let's say, the tech-based removal credits, which is where we see the largest spectrum of prices, we can have biochar credits around $130 per meter tons on the most competitive side of things, but we can also have direct air capture credits trading in the market at $600, if no more, per meter tons. So it's a real challenge for us to assess the price of these credits, and we needed to find a strategy. So what we have done has been the creation of a suite of price assessment. It was impossible to have one price for all credits. We had to categorize the market and create different price assessment for each type of carbon credit. You can see, looking at the left side of the slide, this part, let's start from the easy one to explain. So we have a price for renewable energy credits, which is self-explanatory, and then one for methane collection credits. So here we reflect, for example, landfill gas credits, livestock credits, or waste gas. And you can see that each one of them has specific criteria in terms of vintages that we reflect, volumes that the credits need to have for us to reflect their price in our assessment, and of course, type of credit. So we have categorized the credits, for example, as we did with renewable energy and methane collection, and we have set specifications. So we say within each category, we reflect the price of credits that meet our specifications. And so the same is true, for example, on the right side for household devices. Credits, cookstove, for example, are a typical example here. Nature-based avoidance, so for example, REDD+, industrial pollutants credits, for example, the ozone depleting substances. So this would be all those projects that aim to substitute polluting substances in industrial processes with greener alternatives. And then we have a removal side of things with tech-based carbon capture removal and natural carbon capture removal. You notice on the right side of this slide that we also have two, we call them basket assessment, the CAC and CRC. These were created to offer a floor price for the avoidance segment. All of these are avoidance credits in the household devices, nature-based avoidance, and industrial pollutants, and a floor price for the removal side of things. So CAC would take the price from the most competitive, the cheapest of these three ones. CRC takes the price from the cheapest between these two, which is natural carbon capture. And then lastly, if we go back to the left side of the slide, we have a CEC and CNC price assessment. These two prices reflect the price of credits that trade within standardized contracts offered by exchanges. CEC is for CORSIA eligible standardized contracts, such as, for example, the expansive GEO contract. CNC is for nature-based contracts. You can see that the volume is much smaller than what we reflect in other areas, and this is because these contracts on the exchange tend to trade in very small volumes. Okay, so once we have defined the suite of price assessments that we have and the specifications that each price assessment has, then we had to decide where to assess the price. And we have decided initially, when we launched these prices, that we wanted to reflect the price of the most competitive credit that was meeting our specification. So, for example, in the renewable energy, we would collect all price information from market participants, including project developers. So we would collect bids, offers, trades that were happening in the market. We would select the ones that were having, for example, a 2021 to 2023 vintage. In the case of renewable energy, bids, offers, trades that involved a volume within our range. And then of those credits, we would assess the price on the cheapest level. So in between the outstanding bid and the outstanding offer, but for the most competitive credits meeting our specifications. However, this approach, so pricing on the cheapest credits meeting our specifications, didn't work as much over the past year or so. We understood from market participants that for some segments of the market, there was an interest in understanding not the price of the cheapest credit out there, the most competitive credit, but there was an interest in understanding the price of credits that were considered fungible, liquid, for which there was enough demand in the market. And these were credits that had a specific level of quality that buyers would consider enough to meet their standards and their criteria. With our specifications, you can see, for example, vintages are quite recent. We already tried to capture the higher quality side of the market, but this was not enough. So we had to take a further step. And in July this year, we decided to introduce reference bases. So together with having specifications for each price assessment, we also said, of all the credits that meet these specifications, we are no longer going to assess on the most competitive credit that meets the specification, but we want to assess on the most competitive of the most fungible credits. So we want to identify credits that the market consider as fungible, and we want to price those credits. So we opened a consultation in February as a preparation for this work, and we worked with the industry to identify what these competitive and fungible credits were for each one of the market segments we identified. And this is the result of the work that we have done, and which took in total about 6 months, from a consultation phase to a proposal, decision, and then launch phase. You can see that for some assessments, the most competitive of the most fungible can still coincide with the cheapest credits out there, because those are still considered as fungible. For example, in the let's take the example of the industrial pollutants credits. We know that the most competitive are credits certified by ACR and CAR, the two American standards. They usually come from the US, and they involve industrial pollutants credits. So we kept these as the reference base. space. But in other segments, for example, in the household devices segment, we had to move the reference base from the most competitive, which involved usually VCS certified credits from India, to gold standard certified credits from Africa. And this is because the market identified these credits as the most competitive, the most fungible in the market, the one that were most in demand and for which there was a market. Unfortunately, VCS credits from India have some additionality concerns. And so for those ones, there was not enough demand, not enough liquidity. And so providing a price assessment for those credits was not really meeting the needs for the market to have a price reference. By introducing this reference base, I'm going to jump on these slides because I'm already running out of time, but we can get back if you have questions. By identifying these reference bases, we were able to take a further step, which helped us address another question that was emerging from the market, which was the need of further granularity, more price information. So we provide a price reference, with each one of these price assessment, which captures the reference base. But then market participants want to know about the price of other credits that do not coincide with the reference base. And so what we're doing is we are providing a differential. For example, in the household devices segment, our reference base is gold standard certified credits from Africa. We know that when credits come from specific countries in Africa or elsewhere, which belong to the list of least developed countries under the United Nations, these credits usually carry a premium. They trade in the market at a higher price. And this is because the buyer recognizes a higher value in a project that is located in a least developed country. So with this LDC differential, we capture the premium that the location in a least developed countries offer or triggers on the transaction. In this way, we are offering further granularity and we are helping market participants to get a price assessment, not just for the reference base, but for a broader spectrum of credits. You can see that this slide is looking quite empty at the moment. So far, we have launched these two differentials in the household devices segment. We have 6 vintage differentials for nature-based avoidance credits, but then over the next months, we will be populating all the other spaces by launching new differentials. I wanted to give you a quick overview and then I will pass the turn over back to Valentina of how we work. So this is what we aim to do. These are the prices that we offer. How do we come up with a price assessment every day? This is the flow that we follow every day as reporters. We start our day by talking to market participants. We call developers, traders, brokers, and buyers. We chat with them on the traders chats, for example, like Refinitiv Icon or ICE Chat, and we collect information. So we want to know which bids are out there, which offers, and which trades. We then collect all of this information, review it, and then at the moment of assessment, which happens every day at 12 GMT time, we apply the methodology. As we said before, we select the credits that meet the specification set in the methodology, and we derive a price assessment for each market segment. The assessment is then published and delivered to our subscriber. An important thing that I want to touch on is our hertz. This is what we call hertz. As you can see, these are strings of information that we publish every day. And this is the raw material that we collect from our market sources. For example, in this part here in blue, you can see an indication for a bid at $1.25 that was placed on biomass credits coming from India. And you have all the other details about the certification, the vintage, etc., and also the type of source that share this information. These slides want to show that we moved from having a very simple string of information in May 2021 when we started covering the broader OTC market to a system of price information where the reporter not only collects the bid, but it also engages with the source, the same one or others, to understand the premiums and discounts involved in this price. So, for example, we know that biomass renewable energy credits trade at a discount compared to wind and solar. So we want to understand where these premium and discounts it is at a specific point in time. These premiums and discounts also change. They're more constant compared to outright prices, but they also change over time. So we have to constantly ask our sources about this. And then here, the reporter again asked about the discount that the VCS certification has compared to gold standard credits. In this table, you have an idea of all the premiums and discounts that we are identifying in the market. And for each one of these premium and discounts, we publish those price information, hertz or string of price information that inform the debate. We use that information for our price assessment, but we also make it available on our platform so that people can have a very granular information. I think I will stop here because it's already very late, but then feel free to ask more questions on the process, on the assessment, and we can go through more slides. Thank you.
Thank you, Silvia, for that presentation. I think we're going to have a lot of questions. I personally have a couple. I think it was very interesting, and thank you for letting us know how the tool works, but also how you get to these results using a robust methodology, which is, I think it's very important. And I think some of your subscribers may not know this, so I think it's very interesting for us here in this space. So coming up is Jose Luis. Jose Luis Rivera, he's from CO2 Zero. He's a prominent leader in the environmental services industry with extensive experience in sustainability, carbon management, and climate change. His strong academic background includes a Master's of Science in Process Energy and Environmental Systems Engineering from TU Berlin. As the General Director of CO2 Zero, Jose is driving innovative and sustainable solutions to tackle 21st century environmental challenges. Jose, welcome. It's very nice to have you here. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Valentina and Silvia, for the presentation that you did. It's very, very interesting. And well, thank you also to Ecoregistry to open up these spaces and opportunities to bring more information and capacity building to the people interested in this topic. So, well, I'm going to start by telling you a little bit of who we are. I'm sorry, we have some slides in Spanish, thinking of the audience in Latin America, that I'm going to talk it in English. So, who we are CO2 Zero. We are a Colombian company that started with Ecologic SAS, that's our mother company, back in 2011, and that's a long way dealing with sustainability and also reforestation, because we started as a reforestation company, planting trees in order to capture CO2 emissions and also to make a profitable and sustainable business. And then we started with CO2 Zero as a CO2 Zero as a brand of Ecologic, and we started doing the environmental consulting in Colombia mainly, and now we're in Latam region and doing carbon footprints calculations, environmental education, life cycle analysis for different products. These are some of our clients, and we have more than 300 clients already. And we started in 2014 developing our first carbon project out of the our reforestation plantation. And that was very, very interesting, starting to develop a carbon project to offset the emissions of our clients in that moment, which was quite difficult at that time, because in 2014 there was no the market was very I don't know, like, wasn't strong. There wasn't even a market really in Colombia, especially because here everything started in 2017-18, when the carbon tax was applied, and then the option of not paying the tax if you offset your emissions. So that was a huge change in Colombia for the market. And in all these years, we have developed more than 16 projects of AR, like we call it umbrella projects, because that gives the opportunity to small farmers or to small landowners to participate in this carbon market, because usually for developing a carbon project, it's very expensive. So if you don't have a huge land, like I'm talking about more than 200-300 hectares of plantations, then it's very difficult to participate in the market because of the costs. So, and especially when we have a carbon price of around, I don't know, $2, it's very difficult to develop a project. So that's one of the needs of the market, is to get a higher price of the carbon offsets in order to develop more projects. For example, more reforestation projects that sequester the CO2 from the atmosphere. And that's one of the important and most valuable projects, is the removals, because that's one of the main problems is the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere. So once we start removing in large scale CO2 from the atmosphere, we can tackle the problem of climate change. So these are some of the numbers that we have. We have more than 250 reforestators involved in these projects. We have also developed REDD+ projects with different communities in the Pacific region and in the Orinoco region. And we have traded more than 20 million credits. And well, this is just like a reminder. This is from the last report of the IPCC, and it's how the NDCs, or the nationally determined contributions, are looking in towards the goal of not exceeding the limit of warming above 1.5 or 2 degrees Celsius, respect with the pre-industrial times. And it doesn't look very good. So what we have to do is we have to, like Antonio Guterres said once, we have to do everything everywhere all at once. And that means we have to decarbonize the markets, like the economy. But at the same time, we have to work with the carbon markets, because we have noticed, and there's several studies that shows that this is a very important instrument to go down in the decarbonization of the economy. And here we have like how does this market move, and what's the motivation. One is the mandatory market, which is led by, for example, the carbon tax or the ETS, the emission trading systems or schemes that we can find in Europe or in California. In Colombia, there is one under development. There is in Mexico another emissions trading system, which is starting, is more like a pilot. Hopefully it will get more momentum in the next years. And then we have, Silvia also talked about it, the CORSIA, which is for aviation. And then we have the voluntary market, which has been moving a lot in Latin America. And this is thanks to the net zero goals or the net zero commitments that the companies are doing. And when they say, okay, I'm really committed with the climate change mitigation, so I'm going to measure my carbon footprint, I'm going to reduce it, and then I'm going to offset the residual emissions. And this is how it starts moving. And in terms of projects, there are different, like 170 types of carbon credits. So we have nature-based solutions, we have reductions, we have removals, we have a lot of from technology. And now to give you a little bit more of the numbers, we can see here in this graph how the emitted credits in different years, how it has increased, and the participation of the different regions. As you can see, one of the biggest is Asia and the Pacific. It has grown a lot. Also, we can see South America with Central America in the gray area. And in 2021, we have 240 million tons emitted. And now the retirements, and now we go for the different sectors that we have. Also, it has been increasing with a little decrease in 2021. And we can see how the REDD+ projects have been used to offset in the last years with a big increase also with renewables. And in Latin America, we have seen a huge increase since 2017, and 2018. This is also because of the participation of Colombia in the carbon tax that you cannot you can not pay the tax if you offset your emissions. And the REDD+ projects have been participating in a huge amount in this part. And here we can see the participation also of the different standards and in Latin America, and how Peru, Brazil, Colombia are representing 80% of the credits retired in Latam. And this is very important, for example, that new programs, for example, Ser Carbono with its registry, eco-registry, that they participate in this market, and new standards start to appear in the scene, because it is very important to give other perspectives, and competition will make the market go stronger and with more transparency, because everyone, and starting with the demand of the quality and in transparency, and with all the carbon principles that we are hearing about in all the news and all the articles that we see. It's very important. And once other programs start participating with high standards as Ser Carbono and Eco Registry, we can see a better market. And these are just for Colombia, the slide. This shows how it goes, like almost in every 2 months there are appearing some retirements, and we can see a decline, a drastically decline in 2023 because of the government made like a change in the legislation, and now you cannot offset the 100% of your emissions that go to the carbon tax, but just only 50%. So that's why we can see this decrease in the retirements in Colombia. And one good thing that we have here a study from McKinsey that shows that if all the commitments that we need in order to get to the 1.5 degrees, the market will or should increase until 2030 with a factor of 15x. Yeah, that's 15 times more that we are experiencing now. And in order to continue with this path of the 1.5 degrees, for 2050, we will have a market with an increased factor of 100. So these, everything that we are seeing today and listening today from Silvia and the platforms like Platts of S&P, it's really important, and because this is not just for the offsetting, this is also these prices and this transparency in the market is very important, because at the end, this will finance more activities for mitigation. As I told you, if the price increases, then we will have more funds in order to plant more trees, to implement more activities in order to mitigate climate change, and make the goal of not increasing the temperature above 1.5 or 2 degrees, because we're already experiencing a lot of tragedies and climate impact that we don't want to see it more often or worse. So it's really important that all these big companies as S&P are committing to with tools, and more people and companies, private companies, committing with these goals. And well, yes, this is some of the same by Trop Research, that they have also very good information how the demand should increase with the time. So thank you very much, and I'm very happy to answer some of your questions, or even some of the discussions that we could have. Thank you, Valentina.
Thank you, Jose, for your presentation and for the graphics tailored for the Latin America region. And I think it's very important because the market here is continuously growing, and we need this information to focus on building capacities to get more stakeholders to get involved in the carbon markets. I do have some questions. I'm going to start with Jose. So you already mentioned in your presentation a bit of the carbon markets instruments. How do you envision this evolution specifically for the Latin American region in the coming years, and what opportunities and challenges do you anticipate for CO2 Zero? To what extent do you believe collaboration with entities like S&P could contribute to your growth?
Okay. Well, thank you. It's a very good question. And well, I think the market in Latin America has evolved in the past, let's say, 5 years, and it's because mainly of the national regulations. For example, as I showed, in Colombia, we started developing the market, the rules, since 2017 that the tax was implemented, and before the standards were, I mean, there was Verra, and there was like a guide from Econtech, and that's it. And well, gold standard, but that was very, very expensive for the prices that we were having in Colombia and in the region. So it was not viable. And once the carbon tax was implemented and the opportunity via these regulations, the market started working much better. There were more rules. There were like more clearly who was going to participate, what were the roles of the different actors, and the same happened in Mexico, for example. Mexico also started in Querétaro with the carbon tax, and then more projects started appearing. Same will happen in Ecuador as well, that they are opening to the carbon market with the new Carbono Ecuador Carbono Zero, I think it's the name of the program, and same in Chile. So I think the more that we advance in regulations through the governments, then the companies and the private sector will start adapting and starting to learn and participate in the markets. And the challenge is first the change in the standards. That's one thing that we have seen, because all of the bad press that for example Verra got with the difficulties in the baselines and some projects that were having hot air. There are more eyes on the market, and the standards are not anymore like standards. They are evolving every time more and more quickly. So we have to adapt quickly. And once we have one methodology, and after 2 months we have another methodology, all these that demands a lot of capacity in for the developers. And the other challenge is to and these will be like with a lot of help with platforms like the one from S&P, is having transparency with the prices, because this is the way that we can we connect with the reforestators, we connect with the communities, and we can plan how the activities will be implemented, how we can expand, how we can create more initiatives for the mitigation action. So I think, like to summarize, the opportunities are big. We have good opportunities. We have to work a lot with capacity building, with more transparency, hopefully like a standardization from prices. As Silvia was showing, it was very interesting. We cannot say like a ton of carbon will cost, I don't know, $10, because there are different kinds. No, I showed you there are 170 types of carbon credits. So it's very difficult to say, okay, like I don't know, like the coffee or any other commodity. Maybe we can have some indexes or something to have as a guide, like the floor prices that Silvia was talking about, which I think would be very interesting to hear more about it. And well, yeah, that's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. I don't know if Silvia wants to complement something from what Jose said at the end.
Yeah, like on the pricing side, I agree. Like it becomes crucial to provide that transparency. It's becoming very challenging on our side as well, because over the past years, we are seeing the market shifting, instead of moving towards further standardization and commoditization, where everyone agrees on the rules and the quality thresholds, we are going towards further granularity, and that's the need for what prompted us to introduce new differentials and new ways of tackling all this diversity. But I think this is a consequence of those integrity concerns, quality issues. We definitely saw buyers increasingly wanting to understand exactly where the credit was coming from, the characteristics of the underlying project, because they want to make sure that they're buying credits of the quality that meets their internal standards. This has also created a sort of stagnation in the market, particularly the secondary market. We're seeing activity happening in what we call the primary market, so those bilateral deals that happen directly between usually very large buyers or corporations and project developers. And this is something that allows these large buyers, which have a lot of exposure, so they can be accused of greenwashing, etc., to enter in the negotiation with the developer. Sometimes most of the times actually, they invest in the project directly, so they have control on how the project is set up. They can have a say and work with the developers to make sure that certain quality standards are met. So that their internal due diligence processes can go ahead, and they can be reassured that they're buying good quality. But this, unfortunately, is creating a lot of fragmentation in terms of price signals, because every negotiation, every bilateral agreement is different, and the price of the credit is also influenced by the amount of money that the end buyer invests in the project. So it's hard for us to standardize this information, and it's a challenge. We see this especially in the nature-based segment. Other segments of the market, like renewable, etc., are more standardized. It's easier to find, a logic in the prices that we see out there.
Great, thank you, Silvia. I have a question for you, and is that what trends and changes do you foresee in the near future in the VCM markets? And how does S&P plan to adapt to maintain the reliability of its price indicators in an ever-evolving environment?
Yeah, thank you. So perhaps I can just, continuing on what I was saying. So I do see an extended period of this, granularity of price information until we have clearer rules on quality. So I agree with Jose, regulation here is core. Many market participants are waiting for the supervisory body that is defining the rules of the 6.4 mechanism under the Paris Agreement. They're waiting for this supervisory body to select and approve methodologies so that we could have that as a sort of guidelines on which methodologies should be used to develop projects that are considered of high quality. Once all these guidelines and rules are in place, then we should see not only more confidence in end buyers, in engaging in the market, more companies entering the market, but also more standardization and more how to say, perhaps, the job of a price reporter will become easier, in finding out those price assessment. We should see convergence, basically, of prices, because it's clear what quality is, and it's clear what end buyers want and can buy. So I think we're going to go through another period where, this granularity and opacity will continue. But then hopefully in 2024, once, these methodologies under 6.4 start to be approved, we could have more guidelines and more standardization.
Perfect. Thank you, Silvia, for continuing with the answer of this question. We do have a question from the audience, and I want to mix it up with something that I had in mind, and I wanted to know if you can explain to us how the subscription to Platts works. If you can tell us more about it. And the question from the audience is that how is Platts different from other organizations like Trove Research, Office, or like Offsets? What is the difference of the work that you do?
Right, thank you. So on the first one, unfortunately, I cannot discuss this. As I said before, we have strict rules internally that don't allow me to talk about subscriptions and packages. But if there are specific requests, please reach out and I can put you in touch with the commercial team that can do this. So there are packages that can be discussed, demonstrations and trials, but I cannot do this. I wouldn't even be able because I don't have the information on prices and subscription. And this is just for internal compliance. The second question is how we differentiate. So as I said before, like we're the leading provider of benchmarks, and at least on the pricing side of things, what we do is we offer price assessments that are based on robust methodologies that rely on decades of experience. We do also have an analytics team that is working on building price forecast. So they rely on the price assessment that we publish, but they use this information together with supply and demand data to develop forecasts for the future. So this, I think, would be the core offering of Platts. In terms of the methodology, I think what characterizes Platts methodology is the idea that it's true that we cannot provide one single price for all carbon credits, but at the same time, we do not want to provide 20, 30 different price assessments. So we are committed to maintain the suite of price assessments that we offer limited to the ones that you saw before in the slide, and then we would offer further granularity through the publication of the differentials, so the premiums and the discounts that we see in the market. And this is how we have set up the methodology, and it's the strategy that we have adopted. We believe that this is the right strategy because, again, our role is to offer benchmarks, so price references. When you price everything, it's like you're not pricing anything. So we are not expanding the number of outright price assessment massively. We will keep it contained, but at the same time, we offer the granularity that the market is asking for through the differentials.
Okay, perfect. Silvia, if you can provide us the email address to contact you about the subscription, I think that would be great. I think a lot of people here might be interested on knowing more about this. And I want to finish up with a question for Jose. Jose, with which sectors have you worked the most in terms of buying the credits? So, for example, in the country or in the region, which sectors do you see that are more interested in acquiring the credits, not only for the carbon tax, and what are the main challenges that you've seen in these negotiations?
Well, the interest comes like for developing projects. I mean, let's see the two parts of the chain. So for developing projects, there's a lot of interest in nature-based solutions, but we get a lot of calls, for example, from people that says, I don't know, like I have 5 trees and how many credits will I have? And if I don't cut those trees, and like we have a lot of calls like that, and so this shows a lot of lack of information about how this works and how the market and the credits, how big is a metric ton of CO2. Yeah, like people think like in the garden they have tons of CO2, or so there's a lack of information. That's I think one very good thing about these spaces are these, like bring information to the people in order to move the market towards a better and more efficient way. And so we have nature-based solutions. We have worked with reforestation projects. We have worked with communities to develop REDD+ projects as well. This is very interesting, and the challenge over there with communities is the governance. The governance is very, very important, because we have these communities. They need to be organized. They need to have very clear their situation, what activities they have to implement, because this is not like the future of this market depends on how strict and how good we do and how good we develop the projects. So we have to work a lot with capacity building again, with communities. Like, okay, what are you going to do with the money? What activities are you going to implement? How is this going to show in deforestation avoidance? How is this going to work for your sustainable development? And from the other side, like from the buyers, we have a lot. Today we were looking that in the last year we had more buyers from the voluntary market than from the carbon tax. Yeah, and the prices, the carbon tax, what it does in Colombia, it sets a roof, like a cap. Yeah, because you don't want to pay the carbon tax, you want to pay less. So that's one thing. If the governments start setting a higher tax, for example, then people will have to understand, okay, if my emissions are more expensive, then how I'm going to reduce those costs. Yeah, and that's one of these externalities that are so important to take into account in our economy. And so if we leave a lower price of the carbon credit, then people will not have the motivation to start decarbonization, to start to implement strategies to, for example, energy efficiency or changing technologies, because I will offset, and that's easier. If we increase the price of offsets, then people will say, okay, now I will have to it's better for me to change my technologies, to change my engines, to change the fossil fuels. So this is a very interesting game of how prices could affect the market, but in terms of decarbonization, which is the most important thing. Yeah, what we need is to reduce the CO2 emissions, and these instruments are very, very important. Yes, I think I don't know if Silvia wants to complement a little bit the answer.
No, I totally agree with what you said. Like the primary goal of the voluntary carbon market is to achieve the Paris Agreement goal. So that has to be the case. And one of the weaknesses, if I can say, of the voluntary carbon market is that, unlike compliance system, you don't have any mechanism built into the market that ensures that the price of credits grows over time. So in ETS system, for example, the amount of allowances given away for free shrinks over time, and this pushes the price up. We're seeing other type of mechanism, like, for example, the Australia ACU system, where the government sets a baseline of, these are the highest level of emissions that a set industry can produce. Anything above this baseline needs to be offset, but then the government decreases the baseline over time. So the amount of emissions that need to be offset increases over time, and this pushes the price up. In the voluntary carbon market, there's not such a mechanism. So it becomes even more important to have those clear guidelines on how end buyers can engage with this market. They should decarbonize first and use carbon credits only for unavoidable emissions. And there are some bodies out there that have set these guidelines, the Science Based Target Initiative, but also the Voluntary Carbon Market Initiative now, VCMI, has set these clear guidelines. So decarbonization first and use of offsets only for the unavoidable emissions. And I think it's important that these guidelines are reinforced, because otherwise, as you said, Jose, there's no purpose for the voluntary carbon market. Like, it would be nice to have a beautiful market, but the main purpose is, driving decarbonization and achieving the goals of the Paris Agreement.
Okay, so I think with this, we have come to an end. Thank you, Jose, and thank you, Silvia. I think it was really interesting that in this webinar you are actually engaged with each other, because in other webinars our panelists have been more shy. It also was a very interesting topic and very different from our other webinars. So thank you so much for joining us, for accepting this invitation, and we hope to have you again in other spaces. I want to thank also all the viewers, and if you have any other questions, feel free to email us and we will give them to our panelists. Thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you, Silvia,
Thank you.
Jose, again.
Okay, goodbye. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.